This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers for Faebound and Cursebound with mentions of Marie Antoinette. For full list, please see show notes.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing Cursebound, Book 2 in the Faebound series by Sarah L. Arifi.
And I think it's also important to, this is Book 2 in a confirmed trilogy, unless Sarah decides, let's go ahead and expand it. And I was, I needed a refresher, not going to lie, shameless self-plug, that I re-listened to our Faebound episode. And after I told you I was doing a refresher, you were like, by the way, there is a recap in the beginning of this book. But during listening to that, refresher episode, it reminded me, I was like, why? And it's still a question that I have, because I remember I was saying I'm going to look at the reviews so I can just make sure I kind of remember some of the spoiler plot points. And there were so many negative reviews, and I'm still kind of but why? The book was good. We loved it. You even highlighted it as one of the books that you were thankful for last year in our November 2024 Thankful episode. So, have you seen anybody talking about book 2? Because I still have it, and I know it came out this year, 2025.
Great question. No, I have not. I have not seen anybody talk about this. In fact, all I ever see is anybody talk shit about the first book. And to kind of expand on what you are talking about, I had another experience after we recorded that episode where I went to a book event and I was standing in line, as you do. And I saw the book and I was like, oh my gosh, I picked it up and I was looking at it and the people behind me were like, oh, you don't have to read that. It's not any good. And I was like, oh, bet. Okay. Have you read it? And they said no. And that was weird. And I was like, okay. And they're like, but it's everywhere. Everybody knows. Okay. Everybody knows. What do I know? Okay. And that was that. So again, and we've talked about this when we discussed the first book in the Black Witch series, that review bombing exists and it's weird and it happens. And it is interesting that this book series in particular, through word of mouth, people were like, it's bad, don't read it, it's bad.
So don't waste your time, which is so weird because it's we're always so grateful when we have listeners who listen to the episodes and really have an understanding of what we would like, because it has representation, it has diversity, it has politics and plot points and all of the things that we love. And I know we discuss also sometimes you could have a list of things and they just because it has the book has all the things that you would typically like, that doesn't mean it hits. These two books do, and we've had an enjoyable time. So it's kind of isn't that par for the course that the things everybody else is loving, we're not always on board with, and the things that we really enjoy, people don't want to be bothered, which is weird.
Well, and let me tell you, just to kind of go off of that, the twist at the end of this book, the first time I read this 2.5 per my usual. The first time I read this, I was taken aback. I was like, whoa, I had ideas, but they weren't that.
Right.
So it was very surprising. It was very entertaining. And I was just like, wow, what does that mean? So like, if you break the curse, does that mean they're all going to be people? Like, what? This is crazy. But you've also been murdering people. Like, they're people and you it's people. So like, that's crazy to think about the implications of that. So then I just kind of spiraled. So again, all indicators of a very satisfying book 2. We're traveling here and back again. So that's pretty consistent.
But it's also I know we always talk about like a book 2 travel book, but it also weirdly didn't feel like this dredging. Okay, they're traveling. This is going to be a bridge book to get us to book 3 because things are happening in their travels. We're meeting new characters. And even when we meet one of the nomad elves that we know, Alder, we're like, okay, well, we have a name and we have a group of people and there's storyline that keeps getting added. And why is he so into the conversation? So to see that play out at the end of this book, you're like, oh, because every time he has like a different exposure of something throughout the story, you're like, okay. But I was like you. I felt like I wasn't necessarily piecing things together. I had you in my head being like, oh, that won't be important.
Well, yeah, especially when I think it's Lettel, she goes into Mage Sight and she sees like Alder is glowing, like, and she's like, and he glows kind of like the Obia. Hello, like, duh. Where was I? I was just like, oh, that's nice. Like, oh, what do I ask?
Like, yeah, I was just like, oh, because I'm thinking of like auras. So like everybody has like a different color aura. Yeah, so that's just like, and Obias are so pure. So I was just like, that's just like, he must just be like a good person.
He's pure, like forest dwelling spirit. Yeah, like. Where was I? I was not putting it together at all. And then even at the end when Lettel is like fleet of foot, I was still just like, what is that? Like, what could that possibly be? And then, duh. But all right. Okay. Before we get into all these revelations that are quite obvious on a reread, I'll tell you that. Let's get into this. Jess, you mentioned Alder. Who is that?
Alder is a sleepwalking elf, we'll say for now, who is part of a nomad tribe. They move every season, but he is somebody that Yeeran has come across in her journey because where we last left Yeeran, she had left her Fae. She had left her girlfriend. She had left the queen. She had left her sister, because she was going to go share with her ex, the queen of her people, essentially, her previous people. Oh my gosh, Obi exists. Here are how people connect. Here are how people are connected. We need to share this information. And nobody on the Faebound side really agreed with this. And there were a lot of, I don't want to say falling outs, but a lot of disagreements during that parting. So as Yeeran is going back to her hometown, essentially, with her Obia Pila, she comes across these group of people. She was a little bit reluctant, but they were welcoming and they really kind of helped her kind of care for her for a hot second in this journey. And then we find out that Alder, she thinks is going to kill her. So she dips. She gets out of there really quickly. All to later find out that he was just sleepwalking. But because she doesn't know these people, there's a lot of uncertainty there and a lot of trust that she, that has not been earned by anybody.
He's also coming at her speaking the nightmare tongue, which is just human language. And nobody knows that. Nobody knows what any of that is. So it must be very scary for Yeeran. And she's like, you know what? You know what? Have fun in your trees with your hammocks. I'm not staying here. Bye. I'm leaving. And a little timeline. This is 5 days. So this is she's been on her journey for 5 days after leaving Massima. And we are, this introduction of Alder, he has his own little backstory about being the wayfarer and how he has a really keen sense of the forest and he knows where to go and he knows where the plants are and he knows where the animals are and he's very connected with everything. And that's not important at all. He's the only one that has that, but that they would know, it's fine. Like, I could just, the second time I was reading this, I was just like, where was I? I was just like I was in space with Katy Perry. Like, it was crazy. Like, I don't know, but it's crazy.
But while this is happening, we have Lettel, who is our seer and queen consort to Yeeran, back in Massima. And they are kind of like, well, what do we do now? But, Lettel is sitting on her frustration and parting with her sister. Fury is also mad at her, mad at Yeeran. And we have some assassination attempts happening really quick. At first, thinking the assassination attempts are towards Yeeran, but really we come to find out that they're towards Lettel. Lettel is not Fae. She is elf, and nobody thinks that she's good enough to be part of the queen, be queen consort or a seer. Nobody in Massima believes that she deserves it and that Yeeran deserves better.
It's also like doubly awful because Sahar is the person that Lettel like really, really trusts at this moment. And because he ends up saving Yeeran from this poisoning attempt that he did, spoiler, I guess. But he also took away Lettel's ability to, talk to the gods and like have prophecy.
Yeah.
He took that from her. Under the guise of like, I'm going to oil these for you and like whatever. But he switched out the tokens and made her tokens completely unusable, which in turn made her self-worth plummet like completely to nothing, and then sent her on this like a little bit of a spiral of like, what did I do to lose my gift of communion with the gods, which is like a whole other little plot that Lettel has going on with all of this.
Which is also like you saying that it's like she goes back to the way that she's familiar with, which is using Obia blood and its entrails. And, she doesn't kill an Obia, but she has found a freshly, killed Obia at this point, in part of this journey that we'll discuss in a second. And she has to apologize. She's like, part of me is like, okay, we're still using all parts of the Obia, but she has found a way to navigate around that. And that way is not servicing her right now because of what Sahar does.
Yeah. And it's like, it's just this other, and then on top of it, it's a double, I guess, triple betrayal because Sahar is Fury's dad. So it's like family and included in that, like he is Yeeran's grandfather.
Yeah.
So like just crazy stuff, crazy stuff with the family politics here. But we have quest. I like these quest side plots that we have to go on because we have to decode the grimoire, right? Like I love it when there's a grimoire involved and we have to decode it. And I like how Yeeran's like, hey, Lettel, you go. GTFO out of the palace. Just go. Because I know that you will be safe if you are not here. So you go. You go with Golan and you go to where the water forest crystal glade, which is like 5 days away. I think, in my personal opinion, that is so... just like it happens so quickly, first of all, but also Yeeran is like, yeah, the two of you and my Obia, totally safe. I think that's nuts. It should have been at least a party of a little bit.
I think at least like a soldier should have gone with it.
Somebody that can fight.
Somebody kind of like how you have Anya at the end, who's just like the royal food taster here on out. But I definitely think a soldier. But what I do love is that they thought ahead. They were like, we have no idea who it is. We don't know who it is. We don't know who's listening. So we need to set up this like a 1-2 switch. You and I, Rihanna's like, you and I, Lettel, will know the actual plan. But we're not telling anybody outside of who we know, not even who we know, each other, because people caught, like, they're catching wind. So there was an assassination attempt. You need to get out. Because then what's also crazy is that they told everybody she was going in one direction, but somebody still found out, and they still followed in the direction that she did. Imagine how many more people would have gone after her.
Well, and we need to mention the undercurrent of rebellion that is happening in Masuma, and that epicenter is the Honeypot Tavern, and everybody involved in the rebellion is lightless. Things need to change, right? Like, it's not good.
Yeah. And the Lightless, as a reminder, are a group of people that they are Fae, but they are kind of considered second-class citizens because they have not bonded with their Obia yet. And therefore, they have no Obia. They cannot speak the Fae language. Mm-hmm. They can if they educate themselves, but even then it's very difficult. But they're not awarded the same equality as people who are Faebound, even from a professional level. I think that's even specifically said, like, look, I am there are people who have medical expertise who are not given the same opportunities because they're not Faebound, even though that they could be better suited for those positions.
Yeah. So it's a huge segregation in the population, and the blame goes on the royals, and the royals, which are Fury and Ryan, are like, yeah, it's like an issue and we should like address it and stuff. But there's this other stuff that's more important, which I think that's an interesting part of like the social commentary part of this book, where like, no, this is the most important part. Like, this is going to end y'all if you are not careful.
And they're thinking of it as, well, we have this other stuff that we have to focus on first. They're thinking first, I use in air quotes.
The external. Yeah.
Right. They're thinking like, they believe they're thinking bigger picture, not realize it. And then they're like, we'll get to that after. But that is going hand in hand with what's happening internally and externally in the bigger picture, that they're not making that correlation.
Not at all. And 3 days later, Yeeran is sneaking through Crescent in dead soldiers' uniforms that Pila says stink really badly. But that Yeeran riding an Obia, parading as Fae, able to sneak through Crescent, shows that the Fae and Crescent have a very strong alliance, and that no one is hiding it anymore, and it's all kind of out in the open, and that is dangerous and kind of scary. But then Yeeran shows up at Waning and is like, hey, hi, what's up? What's up, everybody? Here I am. And Salawa comes out and is like, bitch, what are you doing here? What are you doing? What are you doing here? You're riding an Obia? Like, what are you doing? And from here on out until it happens is this really kind of like awkward push and pull between the two of them, because Sala was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna show my power over here, and Yeeran is like, I am checked out of this relationship.
Yeah.
I am not here.
It's so funny. She was like, oh, that's not what I thought. I can't believe it's kind of mixed, because this is also the person who said she loved her, or she never said the words, I'm sorry, but controlled her, had exiled her. She was the person who basically said, if you ever come back, you're dead. And held Yeeran accountable for a lot of things. And I feel like Yeeran in these moments when she's back, she's even saying like, look, I do take accountability for some of the decisions, but at the end of the day, she was the one who forced my hand to make these decisions. So yes, I'll hold myself accountable for X, but that's not the whole story. It's like she healed from that relationship in a weird way. And being able to, everything is 2020 in hindsight,
2020 in hindsight. And then all of this new information that Yeeran is dropping, and Salwa is like, okay, all right, bet. And she shoots Pila. And then Yeeran falls over in the pain that Pila is feeling. And she's like, okay, I see it. Tell me what is going on. And And Yeeran does, because like that is what she was like there for. And she's like, okay, all right, fine. Prisoner, go be a prisoner now. She's very much like,
I am just like, I don't know if you felt like this, but Yeeran, I just felt like she was dumb. Like, what did you really thought you could go back there and think that, oh my gosh, they were going to be like welcoming you with open arms, completely believe you. This is a culture. This is a community that believed X, Y, and Z, that Fae didn't exist anymore. You were part of this. Let's not forget how 5 months ago, you were also a part of this, that killed the Obia, that like you knew their internal tactics and you still went, which is why I really love when Fury was like, imagine if there was somebody who told you all of these things were going to happen. Oh, wait, there was. I did. And it happened exactly the way I told you it was going to. Like, I love and I told you so. I know that's probably not healthy, but people need to hear it. People need to hear it sometimes.
People absolutely need to hear it sometimes, because it is really frustrating, because like, all right. So Yeeran is, a prisoner, and she is waiting for Salawa to call her to the throne room. Meanwhile, there's lots of things happening. Assassins are following Lettel and Golan to the Crystal Glade, but they, through running around, climbing trees, running to the beach, all of these things, they end up finding the tallest tree, and they find Afa's grimoire, and it's all wet. And that is discouraging, but it is still readable, but it's all wet in a box. Fury, meanwhile, is riding around doing all sorts of things, trying to clear her head. And she finds a assassin's note in the little hut that is over there that she like grew up in, a little weapons hut. And she's like, that's not great. That's not great. Okay, so they're using this to communicate. So there is a bigger plot going on. Okay, remember that. That's interesting. She goes and tells Ryan, and Ryan's like, that's cool. Lettel's not here, though. And Fury's like, okay, you didn't trust me? A little offended. Okay, fine. So they go and they torture the poisoner, gets nothing except says the seer will die, and there's too many of us meaning Lightless. And then there's a little aside that says Fury released more troops into the rest of the world when Yeeran left, and Barrow is leading them into negotiations. That's important. That's just like dropped here, and that's important later.
When that servant was caught, I don't want to say the rebellion leader, because it's obviously we know it's not, but the participant, and he was like, it wasn't me. But then he was like, but I can't tell you who did it, but I can tell you the group. Like, at that point, it kind of is you. You got to take some responsibility. Like, you're complicit in this. You were aware. But as we had mentioned earlier, like, we're trying to find out how things are getting poisoned, what's getting poisoned, which is also really weird that nobody had a tester prior to this. But everybody was just like, this is my role in life. And all I could think of was Marie Antoinette, where they just had people who would just taste things before serving to the king and queen. But I mean, I say all till now, apparently, had royal taste testers. And then your job is just waiting to see if you're going to die that day. Like, that's fucking crazy.
Well, they get paid really well. So,
okay.
I mean, that's also like, it's like high risk, high reward.
Okay.
So, which is kind of interesting and kind of fun.
But I feel like that also, again, not to bring up Marie Antoinette again, you know, when you were talking about people running around and keeping them busy so they don't, like, that would also, if you're like, I say the word like the help, if you're trying to have eyes everywhere, you're going to be making sure, if I have to taste that, I want to make sure I know what's going into that food. So that kind of makes you a little bit more hyper vigilant, no?
Yeah, no, absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. Okay. Yeeran is in the throne room. This is where we get some plot. We get major plot here. First of all, Salawa is basically basically acting. She's acting like a big bad bitch here, but she's not. But what is going on is Eclipse, Waxing, and Waning have all united together against Crescent and the Fae. And they have sent their ambassadors to hang out and basically spy and keep eyes on Salwa while this is all happening. So she's got to act like all big and bad. So she has Yeeran there, and she's like, all right, Yeeran, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take me to the Fae. You're going to take me to the Fae, and we are going to leave immediately. And Yeeran is like, no, but if you release Pila, sure. Cause like, that's fine. And she says, no, Pila's in a cage. She says, no, that's not going to happen. Like it's not. And Yeeran's like, okay, it's not. Bye. I'm going back to my prisoner situation. Goodbye. It is knowing that Yeeran is totally checked out of that situation makes all of it a little bit sad, especially a little bit later. It's just like, oh, boo.
I have thoughts with the way Salwa was, where, you know, she was like, we know that she's acting like a baddie, but I don't know if I've just read so much fantasy that when she gets drunk and now she's asking for Yeeran, and, you know, one of Salwa's soldiers, you know, goes to get Yeeran out of prison, and she's like crying to her. And I was like, oh God, she's going to be drunk. This is going to be like, she's going to want to, you know, recreate all the moments that her and Yeeran used to have. And she was crying. I didn't think it was genuine. I thought she was trying to fuck her over, to be like, oh, look at these tears because Yeeran makes a she's never cried before. This is really fucking weird. So that's where I was like, she's just trying to set her up. She's just trying to set her up. But again, it just, and I like that Yeeran says to her, she's like, it's not going to happen again. Granted, they kissed at some point, and she's like, ooh, this is not for me anymore. But she was like, no, we did all of this before I left. And look what you put me and my Obia through when I actively told you how important this was. You're not a good person. You're kind of shitty. But it's always funny. It's like when you have people who commit crimes, or like not even crimes, just people who do bad things. And then they get caught, and then they get called out on it. Then they get upset. You're only upset because you got caught, because you're being held accountable and somebody's calling you out on it. You're not mad. You would not be acting like this if nobody knew.
Well, and Salwa says that she's under like so much pressure, right? Everybody there is spying on her, and Yeeran they've left at this point. Like they are on their way. Alder has seen them. Yeeran is taking them in little circles, trying to get somebody to see them so they can take a message back to Fury, and it is not happening, which Yeeran is so frustrated about. You know, she's like, if I were over there would be patrols on this border and people would be watching. It's very funny. But just the meeting that you're talking about with Salwa was like, look, this is a trade agreement. We are here for trade. They won't like to trade with the Fae. They're not going to like say no to me. I'm very persuasive. It's like, okay, fine. But then Yeeran again is like, okay, all right, now that we're out here and you're drunk and desperate, let's let Pila go now. And then I really will show you the way to Fae. Now that we're all the way out here and fuck all has been going on for 2 weeks, let's try this again.
And Yeeran has already said to us, the reader, she's like, we passed that shit 3 days ago. Yeah, I know where I am.
Yeah, it's like, and then Salwa was like, all right, fine. But it has to be like this big show, right? Like that we're going to show the allies, and it's going to be this whole thing, right? And meanwhile, while this is happening, the reading that Lettel and Golan fleeing from assassins are also in the forest. So this is a convergence, right? We have 3 points of convergence happening on the Fae border. And Lettel and Golan run into a dead Obia. And this is the reading that Lettel does, where she is like upset about it. Golan's upset about it. Everybody's upset about it. She throws up afterwards. It's like, seek your answers in the night. You'll find peace at dawn. There's going to be a tree by the boundary, whatever. And they
don't they say elder, like ELDER, and then you have a person named Alder.
You're like,
she's like, this must be it.
This is it. So Golan and Lettel are fleeing and they come upon a camel and they see Yeeran and they're like, it's the Spider-Man meme. Everybody's at the boundary. It's very funny. And while all of this is kind of happening, Yeeran has sent Pila running into Fae, running to Fury to tell her that there's shit happening on the border and she needs to get her ass out there. And what does Fury do? Fury doesn't hesitate. She jumps on Pila, meets up with her Obia, crosses the border, sees Salwa, like threatening Yeeran, and is like, I need no time to think about this. You're dead. And immediately kills her. And I was like, oh.
I love it. I was like, and you know what? It's so funny because Yeeran loves it too. She's like, she came for me. And she was like, she did not hesitate. She did not second guess. Her girl was being threatened. She's not going to fuck around like that. And then Yeeran had the audacity to be like, no, it was just all an act. What? No. Like, even if it was, and again, at this point, I still didn't trust Salwa. So I was like, no, you're wrong, Yeeran. Actually,
it's good that she's dead. Honestly.
The only mistake that, once again, Yeeran does is let someone go. Like, why are we letting people go? Why are we letting people go?
Don't let people go. Don't let people go. Do not do that. Alder shows up here too, and he's like, hey, Yeeran. And Yeeran's like, oh, fuck. All right, everybody into Fae. Let's go. Everybody in. And they go into Fae, and it is covered in frost because they left. The royals left. And you can't do that without consequences. And the land has suffered because, remember, Fury and Ryan are tied to the land. Very Fae, very Cardan-esque.
Right. But, and it was different because it was both of them. Whereas in the first one, you still had Fury and her cousin, but even with Rhiann not being there, that's why they had the blight. But you still had other people there. With the land being gone, all you had was Sahar, who was already like, he wasn't leading the land of Massima.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Ryan even like bends down into the land and like channels himself into the earth and like almost passes out and tries to like fix it and stuff. Like that's great. Like do what you can, buddy. But it is important to note that Lettel is really chafing at this restriction that she has, that she can't leave and go anywhere with Ryan because he is tied there. So she has this also with everything else going on. Lettel has another internal struggle that she's dealing with.
And I think it's because it's like the conversation and like the option of choice, right? If she's there because she has to be. If there was an option for her to leave, and that's the other thing that she's like, oh my gosh, once we're not connected to this anymore, like I'm going to leave. But it's that natural, like, I want to leave because I have to be here. Whereas if you're like, oh, I can live anywhere, you're like, oh, well, maybe this isn't so bad. Like this, we have this, that, the other thing. You know, I have my husband here. I have like, I'm a seer. But it's also the struggle that she is dealing with, that she has to be here. And the people hate her. They are actively trying to kill her. And a second assassination attempt, well, she had one in the woods, and then there was also like, I guess you could say one internally that Rhiann got the note where he was like, oh, second assassination, like failed. And he's like, what the hell? Like, it was never supposed to be me. And so they're both on edge, and she has no outlet, essentially.
Yeah. And shit just keeps happening because everybody's in Fae now, and Alder is like, yay, Fae, awesome. I need to tell my people though, like what's going on. So he sleepwalks to the boundary and finds that he can pass through it again. So like, duh, like fucking like, hello, duh. And he goes through and he tells the nomads like, hey, wait here 4 days. 4 days. I like a timeline. Wait here 4 days and I'll come back. if I'm not back, move on or whatever. I have shit to do here. Like things are going on. And Alder goes back. It runs into Golan, who was waiting for him because he followed him, wanted to make sure that he was safe because they are, kind of roomies right now. And they're like, hey, let's go get breakfast. They go to the Honey Pot, which is the Lightless Tavern. And what do we hear but more revolutionary talk? We have the chant now, and the chant is free the light. Free the light. Free the... Because they're lightless, right? So that happens. That is happening. We also have a little bit more information because we just keep torturing this servant, Hosta. We keep torturing him and being like, hey, tell us more information. Ryan's down there, Fury's there, and we get a name now. Now we have a name, the Authority, and the Authority wants a new regime, and the Authority is new to the project, and that is what we keep in mind. Okay. That shit is crazy because it is now that everybody's in Fae that the plot really kicks off because Lettel is listening to the nightmare tongue that Alder speaks, and then she's realizing that is kind of Fae. So then she goes to the book orchard and she's like, hey, Sahar, who's here. Okay.
Shit, that was so, because she was like, You're never here. And then I'm always here. What are you talking about? You're the one who's never here. She's like, the gaslighting. You're like, right. I guess. Anyway, because here's the thing. You never want to think it's the people closest to you.
Yeah.
And you can't blame them. Because it's like you've gone through all of this. You've gone through all of this turmoil. You want to think that you're going to be going through this together and that you still have the same goal. So it's I don't even want to say she has a gut instinct. She was just like, okay, that's weird. But anyway, why would it want to cross your mind?
Yeah. And she even confides to him that while she was out in the world, she found Enopia and did a reading her old way. And he's like, oh my God, tell me what it said. Tell me what it said right now. Holy shit. Tell me now. And she does. And he's like, okay, interesting. The fates are elusive. And then he fucks off, but then immediately she's attacked again. She's attacked again by 5 armed Fae, right? And then she starts trying to talk him out of it. She's like, hey, I gotta keep these assholes talking. They don't look very smart. Hey, I'm half Fae. Remember my sister, Yeeran, right? Let's go. You need to verify this information because you can't kill one of your own. Right?
Why do you think my husband picked me? He's obviously hopeful. We're sisters. We didn't get here by happenstance. You know how it works here. She was very smart. I will say that, thinking on her toes like that.
Yep. It's really good. So then they're like, okay, well, we need to take her somewhere safe and we need to get the Authority to verify that. So that's Lettel's plot for a little bit. Just a little bit. Little information that we learn. Barrow is not back yet from her negotiations, and she is overdue. Ryan comes into the palace, and all of the guards are gone. And Yeeran is talking about the Authority and talking about how she's talking to Sahar about the Authority and what's going on and how they want to overthrow the government. And he's like, oh, I just saw Lettel in the orchard. Meanwhile, Fury's talking to Nori. This is important. Fury's talking to Nori, and she's like, hey, you can stay in the palace. And he's like, no, I like to stay not into the palace. I like to keep my life in the real town, not in the palace. And she's like, that's weird, but I'm not going to talk about it anymore, I guess. Meanwhile, here's everything that's been going on in explicit detail. Everything that we know. She just word vomits to him. Ugh.
Meanwhile, she also knows, at this point, she knows Nori as her father's lover.
Yeah. None of this, she sees him as a confidant, as family, as someone that she's allowed to do this to.
Right.
And like, that is not great. Because these are all pieces moving at the same time. Lettel's been taken, and now we see that there was like messages delivered to dismiss all the guards on Lettel, and like, who did that come from? But he sent this animal that only a member of the royal family can command. God, it makes me question myself because it was all fucking there. It was all there.
But how many times did you read it to pick up on it? The second time?
Twice. Yeah, it was twice. I was like, oh, okay. Lettel kidnapped, just keeps talking. And just who is the authority, the fake authority here? Because here's the thing. Lettel is like, all right, I need to keep all these people talking until the authority shows up. But someone shows up and it's not actually the authority.
No, I can't remember the name, but it's the person that they hold accountable. It's not the person who poisoned them.
It's Nori.
Oh, Nori. Right. Okay. Nori is, and that's why they hold him captive for a while. And then they hold it but he wasn't the real one. Well, he was affiliated with it. He wasn't the real one. But then when he does die, it wasn't like, we caught the culprit. It was, well, shit. Now the authority is still out there. So Lettel is still not safe.
But they don't know that until later because they ask like no question. She's not like, are you the authority? He's just like, hello, hi, I'm here. And our whole organization, Lettel, wants to murder you because all we want is instability so that we can eventually take down the Johnny dynasty and just end all of this, right? We just want change. We want change. And Lettel is like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. What is wrong with you people? And you know what? She's got a point.
No, and that's why she was like, I don't disagree with you all being upset. That was her big thing. She was like, but when we talk about, and we said this on our Faebound episode, be the change you want to see in the world from within, from a position of power. And so Lettel's doing that. She's like, you know what? I hear you. You're totally valid in your concerns, because she has an open dialogue with Golan to be like, help me understand your people more. Like, tell me, like, why haven't you bonded? Why don't you have light? Like, tell me this. I know it, but like, let me hear it from like, I trust you and you trust me. Let's have this conversation. And he does. And she was like, you know what? Like, I also don't understand why it has to be this way. Let's invoke change. And so she still doesn't disagree with him. She's like, let me be that voice for you. Let me talk to the people that you need to be heard from. Because she's also like, look, it makes sense that this dynasty, like, they are connected to the land. The land is like one with them. Them not leading everything, how does that impact anybody? That being said, let's give you your rights. Let's, also with the Fae language, like, you're going to have to put work in if you're not connected to an Obia, but that doesn't mean these opportunities aren't possible, because you're right. And she wants to be that voice. And what's awful is that they eventually put on this masquerade for her to be the lore, to bring out the authority, like, and we're going to expedite everything. And Rianne doesn't tell her. Nobody tells her that she's bait.
Yeah, and she's pissed off about it. You know what? And she should be. And she should be.
Rightfully so, because she finds out about it after she just was lectured about, you need to be able to trust, we need to talk to each other, there needs to be communication, and fucks off and leaves her. And then she finds this out. She's like, oh.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So it's okay if you do it. I got you.
Yep. Okay. So Lettel is rescued from the house because she kills Nori. And she's like, what are you doing this for? And he's like, I am the best equipped one to see the corruption of this dynasty as Sahar's lover. I'm surrounded by it, and I see all the inequality, and nobody does anything about it, da-da-da-da-da, on and on and on and on and on. And Lettel is like, okay, like, free the light initiative. Woo, 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 woo. But But we are leaving the house and we're coming back to the palace, and Alder just starts talking, right? He starts talking and he starts talking about his nightmare tongue, and he starts talking about how he can go in and out of the boundary and how he feels like he's meant to be here. And Lettel is like, stop right now. Stop right now. Can you read this book? And she shows him the grimoire, and he's like, I can a little bit. And Lettel is like, oh, you're human, my guy. And just so, I imagine it was just like this big, like, it's like, shh, keep your shit close to your chest at this moment, I would think, but whatever. But here's my thing. But a package, Sahar meets them in the forest and says, you need to come back to the palace. A package has arrived. Oh, has it, Sahar? Oh, has it? Ass.
And you both need to be here, wasn't it? It was because it was towards Fury and Rianne, and it's addressed to both of you, and both of you need to be here.
Yeah. And what's in there? What's in the box?
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
I mean, you had we might not have picked up on the other things. That was the thing I picked up on.
Oh, absolutely.
That was the one thing I was like, oh, that's gonna be a head.
Yeah, that's absolutely head. That box is head.
I just didn't know whose head it was going to be.
Yeah, I was like, that's a fucking head. So we get a head, but Sahar, upset that Nori is dead, obviously his lover, stays in the house with the dead body until the Faeguard come and bring them back to grieve or whatever. Grief is weird. That's fine. The package also has a little letter that says all 4 districts are united against you, Fury, Rianne, the Fae, because the guard that Yeeran let go told everybody that the Fae had murdered her entire fucking party and the chief of Waning. God, don't let him go!
I love Fury. Because she was like, oh, I told you so. You also, prior to saying I told you so, she's like, what aren't you telling me? And Yeeran was like, trying to dodge these bullets so fast. And Fury's like, okay. This is how I imagined it. When someone gets so heated where you're just you're seeing red and you're blacking out and you're like, I can't say anything. That's how I imagine Fury. She's like, on top of the I told you so, she's like, I can't even form words. And I can't right now because whatever I say, it's already been done. It's already happened. You fucked everything up. You need to give me a minute.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. Yeah.
Rightfully so. Oh my gosh. I might have, in a rage, slapped her. Because, if you're gonna start killing people, kill all the people.
Yes.
Come on.
And Yeeran was just like, she was very nice to me.
Yeah, shut up.
They held you prisoner.
Yeah.
You and Pila.
Okay. All right. But now we're manipulating Alder and Lettel because we're freeing the light. We have to have a party. We have to distract. We have to pull out the real authority because we go and we question our other guard, Omar, about everything. And he says, oh, well, Nori's not actually the authority. He was only, that's just not, Nori's been there a long time. The authority only just got here, but he gave us all this money. So he's new. So, we still got to lure him out. And how do we do that with bait? Let's use the committee that Lettel wants to use. And it is interesting then that Lettel doesn't want to go to the party because she's got her priorities straight. She's like, no, I need to do the details about this. I need to say who's going to be on this, what's important, what our message is, how are we going to get together, what the representation looks like. We need to be able to do all of this. I don't want to go to the party. And Ryan is like, you better fucking come to this goddamn party. I swear to God. And he doesn't tell her why.
Which is also like, I understand where Lettel is coming from, because she's like, look, a lot of these parties are just for optics and royals are schmoozing and getting drunk. She's like, let them be the figureheads. I want to get down to the nitty gritty. I want to be behind the scenes. I want to put in the work. I want this to be successful. So I respect Lettel in that regard, where she's like, let them party, let them play, let them do all the things that they need to do. And you know what the other thing is that when they were like, let's make it a masquerade ball, so they don't know who the soldiers are, but he's like, we're going to have matching masks. And she was like, it's like a strip of fabric, which is like, I think it's like those funny influencers mocking like people making like mocking some influencers where they'll undo a ribbon out of their package. I don't know if you've seen this on socials, and they try to convince their boyfriend like it's one of those shibari bathing suits or something, and they're like with a ribbon, and nobody believes it, but that's how I'm imagining. It's just like this cloth, or sorry, I don't know why I keep like, that's just the forefront of my mind, Marie Antoinette's lace mask. You're gonna tell me you didn't know that was Marie. But you know what I also wonder through all of this is if they were upfront and honest with her at first about this whole thing. Like, look, we still don't have the authority. There's still a mark, you are still a target. Let's make you bait at the same time, address this very real thing that is a priority to you. I feel like she would have been on board.
Well, Yeeran says that she can't act for her life, so she would be looking around and give it away. Because she'd be looking away for an assassin or something. But, I mean, it doesn't matter because the real plot is family. The real enemy is family. And yeah, for real. And isn't that just the truth? So what happens? Yeeran introduces Lettel and Alder is human, Lettel as the leader of this like initiative and what it means, because there are a bunch of lightless in the palace for this party and they're awkward, and they almost like rise up a little bit, but Lettel like talks to them and calms them down and really gets them on board, or at least interested in this committee. But then she starts like wandering and schmoozing a little bit, trying to be comfortable in the party, and she runs into Sahar. And Sahar is like, hey, I just want to say that I don't blame you. And Lettel's like, whoa, okay, thank you, I guess. Because he was trying to kill me, but all right, go off. And then he goes, are this fate speaking to you? Why don't we use our talismans together? Maybe that'll like trigger something. And at this point, Lettel is like, okay, yeah, that's fine. So they go down to the shore, right? And they're there, and Sahar's like, all right, why don't you go into like Mage Sight? Go into Mage Sight. Tell me what you see, right? There's all these obias there. And she sees Corey, the Sahar's obia in particular, and it has a mark on it, and she's in Mage Sight, but she's faking it. She's faking it because she's got an inkling that she needs to fake it. And Sahar's got like a knife raised up and is about to murder the shit out of her. But our trusty food tester jumps in, saves the day.
Yeah, that I didn't see coming. That it was going to be Anya.
No, not at all. I thought it was going to be Yeeran or Fury or an Obia or Alder or somebody.
I even thought it was going to be Rianne.
Yeah, but
any of our mains.
On the reread, Lettel says that she grabs an entire tray of mushrooms and then brings it out with her. So on the reread, you're like, oh, of course, Anya would fucking clock that. That is her responsibility. So it makes sense on the reread. But the first time you're like, whoa, okay. All right. But Anya gets hurt, obviously, and saves the day. Ryan and Fury and the guards are all there. They're in disguise, right? There are guards in disguise at the party. And this is where Lettel starts to get pissed off because Sahar goes, oh, she didn't tell you, grandson, what the prophecy is? why we're doing all of this? We're doing all of this because she's going to murder the fuck out of you. Don't you know that? Didn't she tell you that? And Ryan is like, you know what? Fuck off. Fuck off right now. Go away.
She's been like teetering on both. Not that this is okay, but like she was teetering on like telling him and not telling him. She's like, but like in the way that she was in denial because everybody's telling her, like, not everybody, but like as a seer, she understands that she's going to be the demise of Rianne, which is where I like where Rianne is like, we could grow old together and I trip over your foot and that's going to be my undoing. I'm more upset about the lack of communication and not being truthful, which you're like, I was like, at this point, I'm like, Rianne, you're a good man. But there's also the whole bait thing. You still haven't told her.
Yeah. Yeah, you still haven't told her. And she's sitting there going, I can't let you die. I can't let you die. And it's a heart-wrenching because he, again, is tied to the land. So a little bit later when it starts raining, that's because he and Fury are hurting so badly that the land is reacting to this. A little bit of good news, though, before Golan and Alder hook up. We love that. We love that. They're dancing. It's so nice. Like,
and they've been pulled to like their chemistry throughout every interaction since they've met. They're just like magnets.
Yep. We love it. We love it. And Golan walks Alder to the boundary because it's been 4 days. And Alder goes through. He refutes his wayfarer ways. He makes Dart the leader. And he's like, I got shit to do. He goes back, right? He goes back. And he's like, we're going to figure all this out. Yes, we are. We are going to figure this out. And Golan and Alder start talking about the initiative and what that looks like and the plot and Lettel being angry and all of this stuff. Yeeran is in the graveyard with Fury. This is where it is raining. Pila is there as well. And this is where Pila, this is the hinge. This is the big reveal. This is our big reveal at the end. Pila is like looking around or whatever, and she starts hearing Alder talk in his nightmare tongue. And Pila goes, oh, bet I know what you're saying. I can understand you. I can understand you when you talk like that, Alder, in the same way that I can understand Yeeran. And what he's saying is the time to end the curse is fast approaching. Whoa. Okay. What does that mean? What does that possibly mean?
And this is the end of the book. This is like the last chapter before the epilogue.
Yeah, this is the last little bit. So what could that possibly mean? All right, moving on. Lettel is angry and she fights and breaks up with Ryan, essentially. She throws her necklace into the sea. You know, she tries to go get it back. She can't find it. You know,
that part I felt bad for Lettel because I feel like we've had
in
those
a rage.
Yeah. And she was like, and even when Yeeran comes to fight, because everyone's like, well, where's Lettel? Where's Lettel? And Yeeran was like, she finds her and she's like, we got in a fight. And and at the same time, like Lettel, like Rianne left. He didn't even say bye. They were just like, she was just like, fuck you. And he dipped. So it felt more of I didn't take it as they broke up. It was just a really, really, really bad fight. And this is how mad I am. I'm going to throw this shit. But then he left. And then when Yeeran comes and Yeeran's like, hey, like this, that, the other thing, including, or, you know, because at this point, Lettel has told Yeeran about like the fight that they had, about trust, about communication. And Yeeran's like, oh, is it because, you know, you're finding out about being bait? She's like, what?
Say more about that.
What? Come in.
And she gets enraged, as she would, and she screams at Yeeran, and she walks away, and she finds herself at the apothecary, and this is where it all clicks for Yeeran. She goes into Sahar's apothecary, and she sees the poison. Okay.
Clicks for Lettel.
Yeah. She sees the poison that's there. She goes a little bit further. She sees tokens. And she's like, why would his tokens be here? Why are my tokens here? She sees that he swapped them when he oiled them in the beginning of the book. And that's why so this is the moment where she realizes that he purposely took away her prophecy on purpose. So she has her tokens, she rolls her prophecy and she reads it. And the prophecy is essentially like, the enslaved will be bound, the lost will be found, the low no longer, 4 fleet feet. And this is, again, just bash me over the head. I was like, okay, no, because there's no way. No, there's no way, because that would mean, and this is where I went, but Lettel figures out that the Obia are actually humans. So humans, yeah, that's what that is. Our epilogue, Anya becomes Fury's number 2 because it was very brave. It's very brave. They run to the boundary to try to have just like a little bonding moment like Fury did when she was a child. But then they see the armies. What is that? What are we looking at? That is war. And that is the end of the book. I did not see that reveal coming. As I said a million times, it took me by surprise. The implications are wild and I really enjoyed it.
Which it also feels like talking it out too. In addition to all of that, it's like all of a sudden we have the human universal language. Like, why do we have that? Why, and at the same time, it's like, well, why wouldn't they exist? We thought the Fae hadn't existed for thousands of years. And so why wouldn't we think that the humans exist? And it's been thousands of years.
Yeah. And that's the end of the book. And this is a confirmed trilogy. So we know we have one more coming and we know that's going to be some sort of resolution to this conflict. Again, satisfying. There's twists. There was a little bit of spice in here. Like people were fucking. Like it was good.
Yeah, I have no complaints. I think I chatted with you before we started because there was one thing that I was trying to understand more, but that really just like fleshed itself out because it was just kind of formulaic and I just picked up a pattern for the first time in forever outside of a romance novel. So, but again, like that was a me thing. It wasn't a critique of it. I was just like, did I understand this a certain way? Would recommend, right?
Yeah, absolutely would recommend. Diversity, sapphic. There's some straight couples in there too. We love it. Like very fun. And interesting concepts, new takes on things. And a lot more social commentary than I think a lot of people are recognizing. I think you really have to like think about it. Well, again, that just goes with media literacy and we know how that's going.
Yeah, yes to all of it, honestly. Just I think if anything, if we circle back to the beginning of this episode, just make your own opinions. Pick up what you want to read. Don't be discouraged by others because it took us a while to get there, but we're very much learning that we kind of just got to follow our joy. That's what we're looking for in 2025 and what we think is going to bring us joy. And if that means, and if you don't like it, we also learned in a recent episode, maybe start leaning into the DNFing of it. If we have only so much limited time right now, make it count. With that being said, feel free to follow us on Instagram. We're at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. We'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.